All right, let's dive right in. Today we're exploring the Sarhul Festival.
A festival that's super important for Adivasi communities, especially in Jharkhand and the Chhattisgarh region.
And it's being celebrated this year on April 1st, 2025. For our listeners out there prepping for the UPSC exams, this is definitely one to pay attention to.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to really grasp the sociocultural fabric of India, understanding Sarhul is key.
Not just for the mains exam either, though it's a great topic for the culture and society sections there.
Right, right. But also for prelims, when those questions about important festivals or tribal communities pop up, you got to be ready for anything. So what we're doing today is peeling back the layers, going beyond the basics.
We want to get into the heart of Sarhul, its traditions, how it's evolved over time, and what it means in today's world.
Exactly. And our guide for this deep dive is a fantastic in-depth report we found in the Indian Express.
So before we get lost in the details, let's start with a simple question. What is Sarhul?
At its core, Sarhul is the New Year festival for a lot of tribal communities in Jharkhand, deeply rooted in their Sarna beliefs.
Sarna, that's their traditional religion, right?
I got it. And what's interesting is the timing. It falls in the Hindu month of Chaitra, 3 days after the new moon.
Which also happens to coincide with the arrival of spring.
Precisely. So you've got this beautiful convergence of new beginnings, both in terms of the calendar and the natural world. And speaking of nature, the name Sarul itself is a clue. It literally means worship of the sal tree.
So nature worship plays a central role here. We see that in a lot of indigenous traditions worldwide. How does it actually manifest in Sarhul?
The sal tree isn't just any tree for them. It's considered the dwelling place of Samama,
Samama, and who is she?
a central deity in the Sarna faith. She's associated with all sorts of good things like fertility, protection, and the overall well-being of the community.
Wow, so the sal tree represents a lot more than just a source of shade or timber. It's deeply spiritual.
Absolutely. And the symbolism goes even further. Sarhul also embodies the union of the sun and the earth.
That's interesting. How does that play out in the actual rituals?
So you have the Pan, the male priest representing the sun, and his wife, the Pahan, symbolizing the earth.
So it's like a symbolic marriage between these powerful forces of nature.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just symbolism. Think about it, sunlight and soil. They're the essentials for life, for growth, for everything.
It's almost like an ancient understanding of ecology long before we had the scientific terms for it.
Right. They understood these fundamental connections. And this reverence is reflected in their actions, too.
How so?
They don't just start plowing or sowing whenever they feel like it. All of those activities, even gathering from the forest, they only begin after the Sarhul rituals are done.
It's like they're seeking permission, or at least acknowledging their dependence on nature's cycles.
Exactly. It's a powerful statement about the relationship with the environment.
Now, India has such a rich tapestry of tribal communities. Is Sarhul celebrated the same way by all the tribes in Jharkhand?
Well, that's a good question. While it is a major festival for many, and we're talking about the Orion, the Munda, the Santal, the Kadia, the Ho.
It's a long list.
It is. But even though the core idea of revering nature and welcoming the new year remains the same, each tribe might have their own specific customs and traditions woven in.
So like variations on a theme.
You could say that. It reflects the beautiful diversity of the region. And the report also talks about how Sarhul itself has evolved over time. It wasn't always tied to agriculture, was it?
That's right. What did it look like before?
Anthropologists believe it was initially more centered around hunting practices.
Makes sense considering their history and lifestyle.
Right. But as the community shifted towards agriculture as their primary livelihood, so did the festival.
They adapted it to reflect their changing reality.
Exactly. It shows how culture isn't static, it's dynamic. It responds to the needs and experiences of the people. But the core value, the reverence for nature, that remained constant.
And it wasn't just confined to one region either. The report mentions how the festival traveled, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. When Adivasi communities migrated to other parts of India, they took their traditions with them.
This was largely due to them being forced into indentured labor, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Right.
Primarily in the 19th and early 20th centuries.
And groups like the Munda, Orion, and Santal were particularly affected by this.
Absolutely. So it wasn't just people moving, it was culture spreading and taking root in new places.
Like seeds carried by the wind. So where else do we see Sarhul being celebrated today?
Well, think about the tea gardens of Assam, even the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And it's cross borders too. You see it in Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan. It's pretty incredible.
That's amazing. It really highlights how central this festival is to their identity. Now, let's get into the specifics of the celebration itself. We know it's a 3-day festival, and it revolves around these places called sarna stalls.
Right?
Can you tell us what happens on each of those days?
Sure. So Sarhul unfolds over 3 days, as you mentioned. And you're right, the Sarna stalls are the key locations. These are sacred groves, usually found near villages. You'll find them in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and Bihar.
So they're not just any random patch of trees, they hold special significance.
Oh yeah, big time. They're like the spiritual and communal heart of the whole festival.
Okay, so what about day one? What happens then?
Day one is all about getting ready, setting the stage. Homes and the sarna stalls are decorated with these special triangular flags. They're red and white, and they represent Samama. And the Pahan, the priest, he starts a fast. It's a way of purifying himself, getting spiritually prepared.
Sounds intense. Anything else?
Oh yeah, there's this important ritual where the Pahan collects water. This water will be used later in the ceremonies. It's considered sacred. And then there's a big community effort to clean everything. Houses, the sacred sites, everything has to be spick and span.
Hmm.
And of course, they gather salflowers. Those are essential for the rituals on the next day.
So day one is about cleansing, purification, preparing for something bigger to come. What about day two? What happens at the sarna stall then?
Day two is when the real action happens.
Yeah.
This is when they have the main ceremonies in the Sarnasal. They offer those salflowers they gather to Samama. It's a beautiful act of devotion. And then often there's a sacrifice. They sacrifice a rooster, offering it for prosperity and a good harvest, ensuring they have enough food in the coming year.
Right.
And that water the Pahan collected, they sprinkle it everywhere. It's supposed to bless the community, purify the space.
It's like they're weaving together the spiritual and the practical, their beliefs with their daily needs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not all serious rituals either. Day two is also when they have traditional dances, the Jadur, the Jina, the Poor Jadur. It's a way for them to express their culture, their joy, their connection to their heritage. And interestingly, the young men also do ceremonial fishing and crab catching, probably a symbolic link to their sustenance, their connection to the natural world.
That's so cool. It sounds like a vibrant, multi-layered experience. And then what about day three? How does it all wrap up?
Day three is all about coming together as a community. They have this huge feast where everyone shares traditional foods. And of course, there's handia, the local rice beer. It's a time to celebrate, bond, strengthen those social ties. And the Pahan goes around giving blessings to everyone, wishing them well for the year ahead.
Sounds like a beautiful way to end the festivities. But the report also talked about how Sarhul has been changing in recent times, how it's being celebrated differently.
You're talking about the processions, right?
Yeah, exactly. That seems like a pretty recent development.
It is. Back in the 1960s, an Adivasi leader named Baba Karthik Oran started this tradition of having a Sarhul procession. A powerful figure he was. Really fought for social justice and preserving tribal culture. Anyway, this procession he started began in Hatma and ended at the Siramtoli Sarna Stall in Ranchi.
And what's been the impact of this? It's been over 60 years now.
It's been huge. These processions have become like a central part of Sarhul, Siramtoli in particular. It's become this major gathering place. Thousands of people come every year.
So it's become a much more public display of their culture and identity.
Exactly. It's taken on this new dimension of visibility and collective expression.
And the report even mentions how it's now being used as a platform for asserting Adivasi identity. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, that's a really important point. In recent years, Sarhul has become a way for Adivasi communities to say, hey, we're here and we're proud of who we are. It's become a powerful symbol of their distinct cultural and religious identity.
So it's more than just a celebration, it's a statement.
Exactly. And a lot of tribal groups use it to emphasize their differences from Hinduism. Like, we're not the same. We have our own unique beliefs and practices. And a big part of this is the push to get the Sarna religion officially recognized in India's census. They want it to be a separate category.
That would be a huge step in terms of recognition and validation.
Would. But it's important to remember that not everyone feels the same way. The Adivasi community is diverse. Some groups might see their traditions as connected to Hinduism, while others strongly believe in maintaining a separate identity.
It's complex, but understanding those nuances is crucial, especially if you're trying to make sense of the sociocultural landscape of India, like our UPSC aspirants out there.
Couldn't agree more. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into Sarhul, what do you think are the biggest takeaways? What makes this festival so unique?
Well, for me, it's the sheer focus on nature. Unlike a lot of mainstream Indian festivals that celebrate human achievements or mythological stories, Sarhul centers on the natural world. The sal tree is like the star of the show.
I agree. It's a powerful reminder of how connected these communities are to their environment. And the rituals themselves are so simple, so direct, there's no need for elaborate idols or grand temple processions. The focus is on pure reverence for nature.
It's refreshing, isn't it? In a world that's increasingly urbanized, technologically driven, Sarhul stands out as this beautiful, almost defiant celebration of nature. And it's not just about preserving traditions, it's a living, breathing cultural movement. It's how they pass on their heritage to younger generations.
Absolutely. And I think there's a valuable lesson there for all of us. Sarhu reminds us to respect and honor the natural world, something we all need to be thinking about, especially today.
You said it. It's more than a festival, it's a whole philosophy of life.
And for you, our listener, who's on this UPSC journey, understanding Sarhul gives you a powerful lens to view India's incredible cultural diversity. It helps you grasp the issues facing tribal communities. Identity, cultural preservation, the fight for religious recognition, it's all interconnected.
So, as India continues to develop, how do we make sure this deep reverence for nature, embodied by festivals like Sarhul, doesn't fade away? How do we integrate this ancient wisdom into our modern ideas of sustainability and cultural preservation? Something to think about, isn't it? We hope this deep dive into Sarhul has been helpful, especially for your UPSC preparation. If you found it insightful, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth discussions on topics that matter to you. And if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Just a reminder, our primary source for this episode was that great report in the Indian Express.
Check it out if you get a chance.
Until next time, happy studying.
And happy Sarhul.